everyone. Welcome to Treadmill Talk. How are we doing this morning? All right, let me get my guests on here and we'll get started.
There he is.
What up?
What's going on? You're sideways.
Hang on a minute. Let me see if I can fix that for you.
There you go.
Maybe I look better sideways.
I was going to say you're pretty either way. If you want to roll sideways, we can roll sideways.
I can't make no promises that I won't knock this phone over or something like that. We'll try not to.
All good. Well, thanks, man, for getting on. I'm going to jump into my speed round question and then let you introduce yourself, and then we'll get into some really good questions I have for you. First off, favorite movie?
Mr. Brooks.
Ooh, nice pull. Favorite snack? But besides your wife, edible snack.
Come on. Speaking of snacks, she just walked in. Pizza. How about that? Go.
Good. What do you like on your pizza?
She just judged me right there. She's like, "That's not your snack." What is? What's my snack then? Yeah.
Bro, kettle chips for just sitting.
She just corrected it. My go-to snack is Cape Cod kettle chips.
Behind every good man is an amazing woman. There we go.
No, there's no doubt.
We already know that. Love it. Tell her I said good morning.
Tank said good morning, babe. Good morning, Tank.
Morning. Favorite quarantine game?
Probably Monopoly.
Monopoly.
I'm a Monopoly fan.
I bought Lion King Monopoly that we haven't even broke out of the box because we've been playing like Phase 10 and Uno and a bunch of card games. So
you've been too busy making hoverboard videos.
Jack, please introduce yourself for folks that do not know who you are. Let's get this popping.
So my name is Jay Nix. I live here in Marion County, Florida, where I've lived all my life. I am a canine handler for the Marion County Sheriff's Office and the trainer. I've been at the Sheriff's Office for 20 years now, or going on 20 years, almost 20 years. Been a handler for 17, a little over 17 of that. I've pretty much, done it all as far as, I shouldn't say done it all, but most of my career has been involved around working a dog in one form or fashion. Like everybody else, I started it on patrol. And I transitioned from there after working for years on patrol as a canine handler to narcotics division, where I worked at the street level on the street crimes, street level narcotics unit for a couple of years. Transitioned to a HIDA DEA task force, and then also on a Homeland Security task force, working a dog, doing some kind of interdiction stuff over the highway and some long-term investigative stuff. Did that for quite a few years, 7 maybe, and then transitioned and ran a highway interdiction team on the interstate with a group of guys working a dog, obviously. Then did that for a few years, and then transitioned back to patrol canine, and then took over as the trainer position as well.
Now, how busy was that highway interdiction team?
Oh man, it was busy as you want to be. I can promise you that. Every mama just riding by in the background there. Don't worry about us being live in the video. Nikki, you're embarrassing me in front of my friends. But no, it was super busy. I mean, anybody that works in addiction will tell you, you can go out there and be as slow as you want to be, or you can go out there and be as busy as you want to be. One of the reasons why I enjoyed it was a lot of times working canine on patrol, you're most of the time sitting on red, waiting on green, just looking for something to get into. Not that you can't get out there and stir stuff up, but ultimately there's opportunity, for you to, get there without your own design based on calls for service. But on interdiction, you got out there every day and you created it from start to finish, every case. And we were out there putting a lot of people in jail, seizing a ton of money, a ton of dope, cars, you name it, we were getting involved in it. So it was a good time for sure. A lot of great experiences. But,
for the young handlers that are watching, how important is it to be active in producing so that folks, not only do your higher ups and the admins, but the community sees that as well? And that how is that partially how you can get some support from the community, from the folks that actually see how good you guys are doing?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the only way you get good at your craft is practicing. The only way you get good at push-ups is doing push-ups. The only way you get ready, good at doing pull-ups is doing pull-ups. The only way you get good at, being a good canine handler is getting out there and putting in the work. It's no different. You can train and train and train, which as well as I do. I'm a huge proponent of. But the bottom line is, if you don't get out there and practice your craft in multiple different facets, that you're never going to be as proficient as you should be. And that's something that I always did. I had my hustle getting to work a dog from the early stages was always, it's very high in my drive of wanting to do it. So when I had those opportunities to do it outside of the box that I learned to do it in, it drove me to do it even more. And that went, and honestly, I really credit doing those things like the DEA task force and, working in that narcotics unit with a dog and those kind of things. I credit that to be where I am today. And the reason it did is it forced me to get outside of the box. And I think that's what ultimately brought me back into the position that I was in as a trainer, because during those times, a lot of times I wasn't working with the canine unit itself. I was out, in a separate, unit that I was the only guy with a dog. And so I had to, put in a lot of the work on my own versus being held accountable by a unit. Now I had, great supervisors that motivated me and put me in opportunities to have some success. But ultimately, working in those units allowed me to have access to federal money, which allowed me to get out there and go learn from people that I never would have been able to learn from as just a regular patrol canine handler. Then, which also put me in a position to, like you were saying, be seen from a different light, which gave me the support of the administration. And for us, we're super fortunate. I was having this conversation with another guy from another state last night, a handler and a trainer, and we were talking about the difference in support staff and having one that appreciates you, number one, that supports you in your job and supports your entire unit. And that was huge, because I've always had that, where a lot of guys don't. And there's been ups and downs. You have admin guys that, sometimes that, you don't see eye to eye on. But all in all, my department as a whole has had a genuine support for the canine unit for a really long time.
Nice.
Hold on one second. Well, have a great day.
Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Favorite in the line of duty moment for you?
Oh man, saving a baby.
Talk to us real quick about that, because that's actually how I got to come to know who you were, because
Right.
Carlos shared the video.
Right.
And then from there, reached out, we started talking, and our bromance has gone to where it is now. But
Absolutely, yeah.
Talk to us about the baby.
Yeah, I'll give you kind of a quick Reader's Digest version. Had worked my shift. I happened to be covering day shift that day, which was not my normal shift. I'm a night guy. I like to work night shift. And was getting off duty on my way home, get flagged down by a lady at an intersection that's just completely frantic, freaking out, saying that her baby's not breathing. And I can see that she's holding an infant. I told her to pull over. I get out of the car, approach her, and realize that, she's got a baby in her arms, that she gets out of the car with this baby wearing nothing but a diaper, and I can tell it's infant. It's not breathing. she hands the baby to me, check his pulse, has no pulse, it's not breathing whatsoever. I go straight to the ground, start trying to do CPR, but I'm not able to. Not typical CPR. The baby's not limp. The baby's not, he's completely rigid, almost like he's completely seized up. It kind of reminded you of like rigor mortis had set in. So at that point, I had no idea what was going on, had no idea why the baby wasn't breathing, why the baby, didn't have a heartbeat. I found out later on the baby was having a really bad reaction to some medication and basically had overdosed and died. And that moment, trying to do CPR, obviously the first thing a cop does when he runs up on a medical situation is, we call for rescue. Get him on the way and I'll start doing what I got to do now. And I realized in that moment what I was normally trained to do and the things that I knew medically, as a first responder were not going to work because what was going on with this baby physically inside, all his muscles had seized up to include his lungs, his heart, everything had seized. So he was rigid. Like, if you have seen the video, when the mom hands me the baby's arms are straight out, like solid stiff. Yeah. So I could not do chest compressions. I couldn't get a breath to enter his body because I couldn't get his lungs to swell. And I had made up my mind, like, I'm going to break this baby's chest trying to get a chest compression. And so I made a decision at that point. I stood up, looked around, didn't see an ambulance coming, didn't hear an ambulance coming. So I just kind of put the old Heisman Trophy football pose on and put the baby in my arms, jumped in my Tahoe, and took off running to go to the hospital. Luckily for me, the hospital wasn't too far away. It was a little bit of a maze because they had a lot of construction going on. But ultimately, I was able to get the baby there to the emergency room. And it just happened that the closest emergency room was a trauma center. And when I pulled up, I was able to get the baby right directly into the trauma room where they had a phenomenal team of staff that was able to get his heart going. They ended up giving him an adult dose of Narcan. And, it was crazy. And the baby came out of it, but then because of the medicine it was given, it was time release, the baby went right back into it. So he ended up having to go to a neonatal hospital close by, and they had to put him on a Narcan drip all night long just to get this to work through the system. But ultimately, what saved the baby's life was me throwing the rule book out the window and not waiting on a medic and driving him to the hospital. And that's why that whole thing went crazy.
Wow. Man, there's so much information I didn't know about that whole situation.
Yeah, and there's a lot of little details that happen along the way that made that such an awesome experience for me. And ultimately, that relationship kind of blossomed into an opportunity to, kind of join that family and my family together. Which honestly, in the real world, it probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for this incident. But ultimately now, he was 3 months old when that happened, and he's 2.5 now. So,
and you guys see him a lot. You're with him.
Yeah, he's almost 3. Yeah.
You guys are with him a lot, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we talk to his mom quite often. Right now with the quarantine thing, he doesn't get to come over, but we FaceTime with his mom. He's up running the roads now. He's out driving his mom crazy, and he talks to us on FaceTime and flirts with Nikki. He's a little player.
That's awesome.
But yeah, he's an awesome little guy. He's definitely a blessing, man. It's been a blessing for sure. We'll say that.
When you think back on it, like, because literally you telling me that you normally work nights, you were on days at the end of the shift, like you were there for a reason.
Oh, there's no doubt, man. And that's what I say. That's what I was referring to when I say that there's a lot more to the story in the sense that there's a lot of details that once after it occurred and we started figuring some stuff out, it blew us away because I was not supposed to be working. I never take that route home. I just happened to because when my shift ended, I met with a buddy of mine that I hadn't talked to in a little while, and we kind of met car to car and shot the breeze for a little bit. And so I got distracted by him whenever I went home and realized, man, the way I normally go is going to be slammed up with traffic, so I'm going to go this way, which I don't normally drive.
Wow.
So there's a lot of things that were kind of put into place that way, and me personally, I believe it was ordained to be the way it went down. So.
That's incredible, man. Wow. Let's see. We got some folks joining us. Nikki joined us on her way to work.
Awesome. Bro, you're not supposed to be driving and watching Instagram.
Jason Davis, our guest for Saturday, just joined us. What's up, brother?
A sexy beast.
Um,
I got one of my guys on there, Colton. What's up, Colton?
Shout out Colton. What's up? Ethan. He says 2 studs. You're the third, brother. Ethan is a great
Love that
dude.
guy.
Yes, sir. All right, so we're gonna jump
Micah's
into
on too. What's up, Micah? Good morning.
Mike has been in and out like 50 times. She's got her puppy. She's out there working and watching.
She's got her hustle on already this morning.
She does. Let's see. Man, I got so much good stuff. And by the way, you haven't seen any of these questions. You haven't been prepped with these questions, right?
No. Actually, I was kind of surprised you didn't call me and give me a heads up. So I'm a little nervous, bro.
So the cool thing about Treadmill Talk is we're shooting from the hip. These questions I write basically the morning of. I do some stalking, and we write some questions and we go from there. So,
so I have to apologize. My plan initially was to be kind of, even on as a joke, be on a treadmill waiting on you to call me. But last week, busted my knee up doing a training track, so I got to sit in a timeout for a week or so to see if I can get my knee to heal up.
Well, you gotta get that thing squared away, man.
Yeah, man.
So let's talk about this. Your take on the importance of good female decoys.
So that's a great question. We had this conversation come up not too long ago, just a few months ago. You know, of course, Carlos and I are pretty tight buddies. And right now, Allie Raines is down here hanging out with Carlos, and she's doing some, side-by-side work with Carlos. And Carlos is kind of helping her, fine-tune some stuff, as well as, providing her a solitude place to get in there and, get some artwork done, which she's, phenomenal at. But, you've been around Allie. She's a great decoy. She's put in a ton of work in a short amount of time to become as talented as she is. We all know that, talent is something that you're born with, but obviously if you don't, get out there and put it to work, then you don't get an opportunity to, show that craft off that God gave to you. But Allie's one of those people. She's a phenomenal female decoy. There's other ones out there. For us at the sheriff's office, we don't have timeout.
The back phone is going off.
Okay. Yeah, the bat phone was going off. But we don't have any, I would say, experienced decoys, females at the sheriff's office. We have some, females that are interested in canine that have come out and put some work on training days, but ultimately, we don't have any, experienced guys, girls. But Carlos and I had a training night the other night. We do this pretty occasionally where, the two of us just put ourselves out there, and any agency that's close by that wants to come and, train with us, and we always have a great turnout. Well, Allie happened to be here, and so she came out and volunteered her time and put some work in with those guys. And we talked about it then, and we saw some of the results of it. We asked the guys at the beginning, like, raise your hand, has any of you never, bit a female on the street? A couple of them raised their hand. There was a few that had. And then we said, what about in training? And then all of them raised their hand and said, no, never. With the exception of one guy there, he had been there when Allie was there another time. So we talked about we give dogs all these credit about, how powerful their noses are, how powerful those senses are. But we don't think about things like, the genetic makeup of a female versus, a male. The DNA code that we are created by is very different. But we don't think that a dog can smell the difference between a male and a female. Like, we got dogs that can run around a hospital and smell cancer patients inside of a body, a human body that's encapsulated in muscle and water, but we don't think that a dog can tell the difference between estrogen and testosterone. Not that, it's a matter of difference in the way we look at things, but ultimately we know the dog sees things different. And then when you present that difference, I told you that camera was going to fall. And we present that differently, and then, ultimately, I think it's big time important because we work so hard environmentally and different amounts of pressure, and we add all these things to our decoy equation. And then we don't, we're not out there putting females in the suits. And I guarantee you there's guys watching, there's guys that have handlers across the nation that have never been a female in a training opportunity, especially in a scenario-based opportunity. There's so many things that are different, the way they move, the way that we do versus their voices, all these different things. So I think it's super important. I think it's just as important, equally as important as we, doing different things to expose our dogs to every other thing that we make such a priority to expose our dogs to. So I think it's big, and I think it's an opportunity not only for the dogs to learn, but also for us to get more females in this field. Not just on the civilian side, on the sports side of things. And that's where you see a lot of females working dogs, but even there you don't see a ton of them working, dogs on the decoy end. Yep. But I think as we move on and that becomes more the mainstream, and we put the mindset out there like this, that we need to educate guys that is a super important thing for you to put into your training block. I'm hopeful that we get, more strong females that are willing to put themselves out there and take a beating, in the name of making the dogs better.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have Micah, who is a certified decoy up here, and she's joined our team of dogs that we have up here. I watched her one day baby talk a dog back to the car.
Say that last part again. I'm sorry.
So we were training one day, and it was actually a female handler's dog.
Uh-huh.
And Micah was able to baby talk the dog back to the car.
No way.
Yep. Never seen it.
That's crazy, man.
And we definitely have seen the dogs in our area get stronger because of Micah and being able to fight on her. But we definitely saw prior to her coming in the lack of engagement from the dogs that's never done it before.
Yeah, and that's a great point, man. And I never thought about it even from that perspective. But that's interesting, but that's exactly what I mean. Like, that is something that that we as these alpha tough male canine guys aren't thinking about. Some female sweet talking our dog right into a car, and that's last night. One of our guys late last night, I was up, and a couple of the guys were texting in our canine group text, and one of our guys got into a vehicle pursuit with a female driving it. And when it crashed, she bailed and ran. And he jumped out and was getting ready to deploy the dog. And ultimately, some other circumstances come up where he kind of got blocked by somebody on patrol. But ultimately, he was ready to set. Now, we've bitten females. Like we're kind of an equal opportunity biter. We don't care. 8 to 80, blind, crippled, or crazy, we'll bite you. We don't care.
Bro, y'all get it in Marion County.
But that situation, you're thinking about that, just her voice alone could be taken differently. Especially, I could see that from a female handler side of things. So that's interesting. Yep. I bet I could get like somebody with like a real sissy voice, like Jason Davis, to probably sweet talk Drago into getting into a car. You think that would work?
Well, the sissy part from Jason, yes. Drago, no.
I love you, Jason.
Love you, Jason. Yeah, Howard says there's some really good ones out there, just not enough.
Yeah. All right, so Badass Canine just popped up. Eric, make sure you guys add that to your next seminar. Have then kind of record it, because I want to see Allie trying to do some baby talk to start with, and then adding in baby talking the dog to the car. So Eric Stambro, you're watching. Make sure you guys add that to the next one.
Jason Davis already says he was prepared.
He said, I knew it was coming.
But he's on Saturday, so he'll have his chance to fire back.
Nice. Very good. I can't wait.
Man, there's so much stuff that I want to ask you, and I know we only have an hour, but it was just announced yesterday that Worthless Handler, one of my favorite accounts to follow on social media, one of my favorite brands to support, even though I'm not a canine handler. Talk to us about that, how it went down, and what it means to you to be one of those ambassadors.
Yeah, that's a good question. First off, like a lot of people, the first time I heard about Worthless Handler, I had no idea. I just kind of, there for a while, we went through a phase where we were seeing all these, cop haters and all this kind of stuff. So initially, when I first saw it, I thought, here we go. Now it's just a group, focused on, picking on canine handlers. But obviously, real quick, I realized otherwise. Went to their site, watched their video, got to know the founder of it, and but ultimately for me it was yesterday it kind of got made public that this has been going on for a couple of months. I just been kind of dragging my feet on ultimately getting my information to him so he could put it out there. But he had asked me late last year if I would be willing to be a brand ambassador for the company, and obviously, of course, initially whenever he asked me, I was thrilled and I was honored, especially once I got to know the story behind it and what that meant to him when he created it, what he went through, the sacrifices that he made, and the drama that he had to deal with, as a canine handler. And which, like I said something to you earlier about, fortunately for us, we've always had an admin that has been super supportive of our canine unit, and that goes clear back into the 70s. Like our canine unit is old and it's legit, and our sheriffs, no matter who they were over the years and the regime changing, has always been super supportive of our specialty units like canine SWAT and bomb team, dive team, all aviation, all these teams. They've always put a lot into it. They know the worth, and that's something that we take for granted. And I'll be honest with you, even I took for granted until I got outside of my box, again, talking about that little box, and realized some of the struggles that guys were dealing with. There was a question posed yesterday on the Leo Canine discussion where I got tagged in it, asking what my thoughts were on it, and it was a scenario-based question, and it had to do with maybe a mistake being made. And my first question is, it all depends on what kind of admin you have, like what kind of support you have at home, and ultimately that's where a lot of it lies. And there's a lot of agencies, a lot of guys that are out there working in some conditions that do not have the support that we do. They're not looked at as an asset; they're looked at as a liability, and sometimes those admins don't really, matter of fact, not sometimes, they don't genuinely understand the worth of a canine handler, the worth not just as a human being, but the team itself and what that can provide to the community. And when that doesn't happen, and when you don't have that, you'll never have a clear understanding of support. Mistakes are going to happen. You're taking a living, breathing animal, and you're asking it to do a professional job, and then you're asking a guy to control that animal in a way that limits the liability, and if it had it their way completely. But we all know that's not going to happen. But ultimately, there's a lot goes into making sure that's and administration make sure that they do their part to limit that. However, at some point they have to just trust these guys are going to do the right thing. They have to trust in their process, pick the right people, to put them in the right place to do the right thing. And that goes from the handler all the way to the supervisor, to the guy that's in charge of the division, all the way up. But ultimately, I think that was an eye-opener for me, having a discussion with the guy that owns it, and finding out why he reached out to me, and what was his reason, and that came down to, again, me getting outside the box and being willing to not just worry about me and stay in my lane, but being willing to stand up and fight for some people that, clear across the country, and being willing to take phone calls and help guys establish a canine unit when they've never had one to start with. Help guys, basically be a support unit for guys that sometimes don't have a support unit. So that, becoming that, stepfather for some people that, that don't have it at home. We are very fortunate. Like I said, I think there's a couple of my guys on here watching and taking the test. One of them, Colton and I are way back. He's a great guy, works his tail off at this agency. And he can tell you, we have a really good deal. And when you look at guys like, a successful company like Worthless Handler, I mean, now you put that out there, and hardly anybody in the canine world doesn't know who Worthless Handler is.
Right.
And it's because of his sacrifice, but he used what was initially meant to tear him apart and destroy him professionally and maybe even some personally, and he flipped it around and he turned it into something that ultimately is bringing support to handlers all over the nation through something as simple as, like we all know that he's famous for, putting out these funny decals and funny, patches and these funny sayings. But one of them for me, and one of the reasons that I love Worthless Handler and I love, Gary, is the do your job. When he put that one out there, man, it plowed into me. Like it was something that I felt deep in my core, and I took what he had it out there as purpose for, and I kind of put a little bit of spin on it to make it my own as well, so that it impacted me. And I got two of the stickers, and I put them on my patrol car. One of them is under my AM/FM stereo in the dashboard of my car. The other one is in the back of my car on the driver's side when I open the dog's door. It's right on the top of his kennel. And it just says, do your job. 3 very simple words. But Gary's reason for making that, and then my spin on it, was very valuable to me. And that's what it's about. It's about taking it and making it valuable to you. So for me, it had to do with 2 things. 1, do your job. Don't be lazy. Go out and put in the work that you're paid to do. Period. Go do your job. Do the job that you were designed to do. If you were made to be in this business, then go do your job. Period. If you're a poser, bounce. Go. Because none of us have time for your nonsense. But you do your job. The second one was do your job. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't worry about somebody else's job. Don't worry about picking up the slack and doing, somebody's job that they're responsible for, and they're being lazy, so you feel obligated to do it. It's not your problem. Do your job. So for me, it's a twofold thing that if I'm having a bad day, I look at that sticker and I can get myself realigned. If I am motivated, I can look at that sticker and get out there and become even more motivated. Gary and I have talked on the phone. We talked again yesterday on the phone, and basically yesterday it came down to me, saying, hey man, I'm sorry I put this off so long, but here's my information. I gave him some pics to pick from, and he chose one and he put it out there. I got a lot of great responses out of it, but I'll tell you one thing that I really enjoyed about that, and I was, making a post earlier before you called, was there's still people out there that don't know what Worthless Handler is. When they see it, they think it's a negative connotation of it's a play on words that it means something bad. But the truth is, it is a play on words, but it's a genuine understanding and a feeling in our core that no matter what people think of us, no matter what they call us, no matter how much they will be ignorant and not understand what it takes to do what we do and be successful, the amount of behind-the-scenes work. Ultimately, it's a mindset that I'll be a worthless handler if that's what you want to call me. If that's what you want to make me out to be. But I know the truth, and I know exactly what it takes to be here. I know exactly what I've put into it thus far, and so that's what I'm here for, man. I really want to be, a voice for other guys that don't have a voice at home, and I want to be able to provide that. And that's really the reason why I put myself out there, outside of my specific job, to train. Outside of helping my guys, it's helping other people. Is that exact mindset?
2-part question off of that. What do you say to young guys that call you up and tell you that they feel like their hands are tied before they even start their shift? And what do you say to guys that maybe kind of come up with if they're not law enforcement, if they're not a handler, you shouldn't work with them type deal?
That's a question that you and I have discussed, before on a personal level. We've talked about this. This is a discussion that, a conversation that, Carlos and I have talked about, Michael Nesbitt, some other people, Ted Summers, we've all discussed this. There's so much value in reaching out to people just because they're not in your trade. They're not a law enforcement officer in there. They're not a law enforcement dog trainer. They're not a law enforcement dog handler. That's if your mindset is, I can only learn from guys that are law enforcement canine handlers because they know who I am. You know, they know what it's like to do my job. You know, I'll never pretend to be a military dog handler. Never been in the military. You know, but I do know what it's like to be in some really bad spots. I have been in positions where it was a life or death situation, and I had to make a choose to save mine, ending somebody else's. I've been in situations where, you know, they've been bad, but I've never been in a third world country where just walking down the road can get me completely blown up. But I know what it takes to get that dog ready for that. I know what it takes to compartmentalize the training that needs to happen, put together a dog that is solid enough to go out there with crap blowing up around him, people dying left and right next to him, and still go and pocket the bad news. That doesn't mean that I can ever present myself to be a military guy, right? But I've had opportunities to train with and help train military dog handlers. And, you know, those guys are starving for information just like we are. But it's been beat into them since the beginning of their military career that you have to stay within your box. And you can't get information outside of that. And it's the same way with law enforcement. And sometimes, you know, I do understand we can't completely blame them for that because sometimes guys don't have that opportunity and they don't have the luxury or the knowledge of it. But ultimately, you know, I can learn something from, you know, the pet dog trainer at PetSmart. Now, I may be learning what not to do, but that's still learning, right? I may be learning something new, still learning. I may be learning what I'm doing already is working. And so that's kind of the way I approach anybody that's willing to, you know, share with me their information. So I can learn something, whether it's something not to do, whether I'm doing it right, or something new to do. And I've learned that from people like you. You know, you and I, we've had many conversations where we've learned from one another. And I think anybody that's willing to put up so listen, anybody that's willing to not tear down that wall and allow outsiders in just because they're not in the same career field as you, you're missing the boat. And you're going to lose out on some skills that you could have perfected and been better at doing it. And I think that there's probably guys out there that disagree with me that think, nope, we shouldn't allow anybody inside our group that, you know, civilians. Bottom line is they're probably not watching because this is your show. So I just think that Eric asked the question. He just said Florida is sometime a third world country in some parts, and that's very, very true. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Do you think it's safe to say that those guys that have that mindset, it probably reflects in their dogs?
Yeah, of course it does. Absolutely. And here, I'll give you a prime example. We used to be that agent. Like, we were those guys. I have no problem admitting it, and it's kind of shameful. And honestly, if it wasn't for me leaving Patrol Canine and working a dog in a completely different context, that I may have never known that. I may have not seen it because I was taught growing up, you don't get outside your box. You know, the guys that I learned from as trainers no longer work at our agency because they moved on and retired. But we did what we did because we've always done it, period. And you didn't change that. You didn't ask the questions of why. And so when I left that environment and went working independently, still for the same agency, but doing it outside of a unit atmosphere, it allowed me an opportunity to travel and train with some people that I never would have been able to travel and train with. And that is what opened up my mind to, wait a minute, you mean I don't have to grab a dog by the throat and snatch it clean up in the air while trying to knock his teeth out and push his butt down to the ground at the same time just to teach it how to sit? Like, I mean, that's not the way we should do it? Bro, I was that guy. My canine school was compulsion heavy. My very first dog, and I think I've told you this in other conversations in the past, I would love to be able to go back and wake him up out of the grave and apologize to him for the completely ignorant stuff that I did. But it was ignorant because I genuinely didn't know better. Now, I've learned that over the years, and every single time, that I have the privilege to train a dog, whether it be helping another handler, or whether it be training a dog at my agency, but every single time that I've, put another dog out there in this law enforcement community, I learned something new from that handler that didn't know anything. And I learned something new from that dog that didn't know what to do. And so I think that's what makes us better. Is don't think that you already know everything there is to know. And I promise you don't. First off, the knowledge that you got, you didn't create. You took from somebody else, and you might have made it and molded it to be your own, but you ain't reinventing the wheel here. So the truth is, be open, because somebody had to teach you what you know to start with. Somebody helped you get there. There's somebody else out there. And that's always going to be my mindset is it doesn't matter if I'm dealing with a very young new handler or I'm dealing with an old school, stubborn, bullheaded trainer that thinks his way is the only way of doing things. I promise you I can learn something.
What's the worst saying in K9? We've always done it that way.
Yeah, that's what I literally heard those words come out of my trainer's mouth early in the day was, when I got a little bit, of course, all young cops are cocky. But when I got to be, a couple years into working a dog and felt pretty confident with myself, I started asking why. And it wasn't always taken real well. There was times that it was, taken with a good old backhand, But I've heard it many, many times, and every cop out there has probably heard the term, because we've always done it that way. But if you hear that term, it's because you asked why, and you should be asking why. Like I said, one or two of our guys is on here. Colton is somebody that's worked a dog before, and he was trained under the previous trainer in a different way of doing things, and it was a kind of a not, I won't say completely set in stone, but it was built off the old days, and then when he got his new dog, it was a completely different learning experience from him, and that sometimes can make us alpha male guys feel vulnerable. And I know that's a terrible word for a lot of guys, but the truth of the matter is it almost kind of made them feel weak. And I think that's one of the reasons why guys are scared to get outside their box and learn from other people, is because they're afraid it's going to expose their weaknesses. Bro, I want you to expose mine. I want you to challenge what I'm doing, because I'm gonna articulate to you why I did what I did. However, if you can use your mouth and you can articulate to me why you felt like it was wrong and that it should have been done a different way, and I can learn from it, I promise you, I'll take what you taught me and I'll run with it.
I knew this about you the moment that we met, but it was confirmed down in Florida when we did the HRD event. You hosted it, and you ran your dog through every scenario. You were itching to run your dog through every scenario. Most guys that are not confident, that put on events, oh, go ahead, let the young guys do it. Yeah. You let them do it, but you also ran your dog through it. So You were wanting to be exposed to those scenarios. You were wanting to be exposed to anything that you and your dog could work on as a team.
Right. And, when Ray Murphy and I initially talked to set up the event, I knew Eric was coming, I knew Ted was coming, Alicia, and my little sexy buddy, Danny. When I knew those guys were coming and we talked about the initial idea of it, ultimately my reason for bringing those guys here was I knew there was guys in our area that desperately wanted and needed that training, because it wouldn't have been allowed to go down in their hometown, but they were able to get outside their box and go and travel and train. But when we put it together and they showed up, the purpose of it was to help other handlers. That was the reason. I wasn't, I hosted it. Our agency hosted it, and I'm super grateful that the agency allowed us to do that. but ultimately, my role there was to be a support unit to those guys and make sure they had everything they need. But those guys, they've always recognized my worth, and they put me right into the mix. And obviously, I was helping in a training aspect, but that didn't stop me from wanting to get in there and put my dog in there. The dog that I work, you've worked, he's been on you before. I've only worked him on the street for 2 years, and he's a young dog, and he's got a lot to do. But I've put a lot of work into it. I've done a lot of foundational developmental work that's made him as successful as he is now. But it's that same work that we put into these dogs very early on that makes them, when they go out and have their first street fight, a week out of canine school, that their apprehensions on bad guys look like seasoned dogs, instead of this stuff where the dogs are unsure of themselves. But anyway, when they got here, yeah, man, it was, when we started setting up the scenarios, of course, they didn't give me an itinerary ahead of time, like we're going to do X scenario, X, Y, and Z. So it was every day when we started up, it was a surprise to me too. And so, I wanted to capitalize on that opportunity. And of course, they were gracious enough to allow me to jump into the circle from time to time and put that work out there. But I also have a mindset too that I can't be the guy in the background telling everybody what to do and where to go and you're up next and all that stuff if I'm not willing to jump into that circle of death right on my own. If I'm not willing to put myself out there, and I do it for a couple reasons. One is personal, and I'll be honest with you, it's selfish. I want to be better, and if I can take that opportunity and learn that, A, I'm doing it right, and B, that there may be something I could do to make it even better, I want that. I want it. At the same time, I also want those guys to see, look, this guy's been doing it a really long time, and he doesn't feel like he's good enough. He's not too good to jump right in the middle and expose his weaknesses. Like I said before, and I don't know how many of my guys are watching, but even just our last training day, as soon as we got done, so we break our training days up where we hold everybody responsible. So our guys are responsible for a training day. Like Colton's listening, he's got one coming up. It's Colton's responsibility that day to create the day for everybody.
Nice.
It's his responsibility to come up with the scenarios. It's his responsibility to explain the scenarios, explain what his desire is of the outcome of the scenario, and what he wants to focus on. But ultimately, when it's done, it's also his responsibility to critique that and critique everybody as a whole and as well as individuals. And at the end of my scenario, the guy's like, great job. No, time out. I don't want to hear a great job. I legit want you to tell me. I want you to break it down. What did you like? What didn't you like? What could I improve on? What would you have done better? Because the truth of the matter is, you may have done something differently than I did that may give me something to think about the next time I deploy my dog in this situation. So, when those guys got here, man, there was no way I was allowing that to pass up, jump in and allow you and Jason to tear the walls, slap out of the building that we were using, and hear you scream and say that your hands are going numb. There was no way I was missing that opportunity.
Yes. Hey, I want you to read that bottom comment by Eric. Read it out loud.
Marion County group voted the best group 2019 by us guys at HRD. It's so funny because I try my best to listen to as many of the Working Dog Radio podcasts, just like I do with a lot of the other ones, Hits Radio, Controlled Aggression, Cameron Ford's. I try to listen to those things, and again, it comes down to I can always learn something. Maybe it's not a whole lot. Some of it's just pure entertainment value. The one that they dropped yesterday or the day before on Working Dog Radio was phenomenal. Listen to that warrior story, but ultimately. I didn't get a chance to listen to the one that they had dropped right away that talked about, their favorite, their wrap-up, year wrap-up. And somebody texted me, not one of my guys, not somebody local, it's a guy from out of state, shot me a message on Facebook. He's like, bro, go to this episode and fast forward to this time. And I'm like, here we go. It's probably some shenanigans. They're probably talking about Florida. Ted likes to smack talk on Florida all the time, even though, where did Joe Exotic come from? Oh, that's right, Oklahoma. even though we got old crazy Carol Baskin down here, I guess it's kind of a wash. But ultimately, they like to talk smash. So when he called me and said, "Go to this episode, fast forward to this time," I thought, okay, this is just going to be a poke at Florida again, because those guys and Justin Rigby love to, bust my chops about Florida all the time. But when I fast forward it and I hear those guys talking and listening to what they were saying and knowing that I know that each one of those guys is personal, and I know that they don't blow smoke and they don't kiss people's rear ends, and they're raw, and sometimes they come across as a little abrasive because of the way they talk. But the truth of the matter is those guys' hearts are genuine. And so when they said it, it meant the world to me. Not because of me personally, but when they showed up here, even I had a couple of my new guys in the HRD seminar, and you got to meet them. But also, a couple of our senior guys were showing up randomly, like, "Hey, can I jump in?"
Yep.
And they were like, "Yeah, jump in." But I think, that's the reason why us, along with some other units, are so successful, is because we put ourselves out there. And to hear what those guys said, I immediately recorded it and sent it out to the guys, let them know that, that means a lot. It means a lot to me as a person, as a deputy, as a trainer, as a citizen of this community, as, a part of the team that I'm very, very, very fortunate to be a part of. But it meant the world to me, for sure. And it meant the world to those guys that continued their friendship, and that we can talk on a regular basis and, bounce things off each other and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it was awesome.
Leadership is huge, and I can definitely see where even your young guys, man, they got a way of looking up to you. And it was phenomenal to watch. Like, I've come from a military background where I had shitty leadership. I worked in retail where I had shitty leadership. With Off Leash, I've got amazing leadership. So when I saw that, it was very refreshing to see. And I told you that offline a bunch of times.
Yeah.
It's just something that I truly appreciate.
Yeah. I hope that other people appreciate it. And I know that the guys that I work with daily do. They've told me, countless times. But ultimately, a true leader doesn't lead because he wants to hear that he's a great leader. That he wants to see them be successful. Listen, I'm 43 and I've been doing this a really long time. My body is starting to tell me that, it's not as easy as it used to be. It's not as young. Don't get me wrong. I can still get out there, hit the woods and go for those 2-mile tracks. And I was teasing a very young deputy the other day that he was struggling to keep up on a track. And I'm like, "Bro, you're 20 years old. Like, what are you doing? I'm twice your age. Like, come on, catch up. Let's go." But I want to be a leader in a formal aspect, but also as an informal aspect. I want my lifestyle, the way I operate as a human being, to be, using those leadership qualities, and I want to be an inspiration to others to be the same way, because I'm not going to be here, a whole lot longer. Eric retired recently and he's running his own business, but even that's going to come to an end. And I know that guys like Eric and myself and others that have, gone and come before us, I still talk to the guy that trained me in canine school. And, I want, because what he gave me, even though it was, a different technique and it was a different theory, his leadership bled over into me. And he was a strong leader. But I want, as I move on and somebody else takes my place, I want to know that same mentality is carried over. I want to know that same passion is still pulled in and put into the next guys. So my driving force to do it is so that somebody else will do it behind me or for somebody else.
Nice. I knew this was going to happen because when we talk, we get pretty deep into our conversations, and I don't want to run out of time on this last question. So we got about 3.5 minutes before live is going to kick us off.
Okay.
If you were to talk to a group of young handlers and they said, "Hey, Jay, what's one thing that we can kind of push ourselves to see if we're capable of doing this job, physically ready?" So in other words, when we did the HRD scenario, fuck it, Stellan. We started off with physical activity, getting the adrenaline going, coach to the front door. A lot of things were going on. What would be one thing that you say, hey, go out there and do this right now, and if you can, you're good. If you can't keep up on a 2-mile track, you need to reconsider maybe some cardio or whatever. What would that be? What advice would that be?
So it's tough to put one specific thing on that. But ultimately, like we've talked about multiple times already, even now, is get outside your box. Stay away from your comfort zone, because your comfort zone will never make you any better, period. No matter if that's in your knowledge base, it's in your physical abilities, your comfort zone will never, ever take you to the next level, ever, period. Get out of your comfort zone. The next question is, in a respectful way, not in a way that's going to, outcast you, and not in a way that's going to get you in trouble, but ask why. Even if you're just asking yourself why. You have a failed deployment, why? The dog didn't engage, why? My dog's hard-headed today and he's not listening, why? I left training today and I was super successful, why? Why were you successful today? Why is not a matter of being something that's specific to having a problem. It's literally a mindset, and the only way you're going to get better is focusing on why you're good now and how you're going to get better. Why you're struggling is focusing on why you're struggling. The first step to problem solving in a dog world to me is figuring out why it's happening to begin with. So, good or bad, get outside your comfort zone and ask yourself why.
Hell yeah. Social media presence. Give me 3 guys or girls that you follow on social media.
Justin Rigney, he's one, only because, number one, he posts a lot of muscle pictures and how cool he is, that kind of stuff. But Justin puts out a lot of content. Justin is somebody that pisses people off. Like, he doesn't care what anybody thinks. He does. Don't let him get to fool you, but he does. But ultimately, he puts out content that genuinely is there to make people better. Even if it's just to piss them off and challenge what they're thinking. It still gets people talking. It still gets guys thinking. So I like that. I like, guys like Carlos, guys like Michael Nesbitt. That I like guys, social media stuff that is put out there. Jake Simmons, who runs, Leo Canine Discussion. I like guys that are willing to put content up that asks questions, where it makes you challenge yourself. Listen, I know that everybody loves the Tote Your Dog Tuesday social media. I want to become Insta famous. Good for you, great. But ultimately, I spend my time on social media because I want to see people be better than what they are now. So, those are some. Ted, Eric, the guys that are put. Michael Gooseby is one that I love, and Gooseby always has some great, reasons he puts out what he puts out. And, Mike and I talk either in the public format or on the side a lot, and I just like guys that put content on the social media that challenges people and makes them desire to be better.
Nice. All right, we're getting ready to wrap up. Anything you want to add? Where can people follow you? What you got going on?
Yeah, so obviously we didn't get a chance to talk about it, and Miss Debbie's probably going to choke me, but Canines United, go follow them. Guys, if you're out there, we have a responsibility to help everybody else. We've talked about that multiple times, and the way I do it is put in a lot of my time and effort with Canines United and the foundation. So you can follow us, Canines United. I'm definitely super involved in that. You guys are aware of that. Triple Threat Canine, myself, Carlos, and Mike Nesbitt are partnerships in that, putting out some great content and working with some guys to make them better. My Instagram is Kilo, Kilo 2479. And then, of course, Jay Nix on Facebook. But, man, I just appreciate you. I appreciate you starting this back up and, getting the format started where some discussions can happen so that guys can learn. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, I love you, brother. Be safe. And
love you
we'll
too,
talk
man.
to you offline.
Absolutely. See you soon.
See you. Bye.